Welcome to a crossover video. Well, a lot of you don't realize that I manage two different YouTube channels. So among the two of you, I have over 10,000 subscribers. One is largely focused on men's hair loss, something I don't care anything about, but it's a very popular topic, so I keep pumping out those videos. And the other, DNA test results. And actually, I am fascinated by that. I think that is interesting. So I've got that channel as well. But this one, this topic, this comment that came in, I feel speaks to both audiences. So I'm going to share this comment with you because I think it's interesting, and I think you will find, however long this video ends up being, it's worth every moment of your time, whether that moment is measured in the metric system or not. Here's the video. On the YouTube channel called Nick Shell, I posted a video called Remembering Our Friend Jared Wilson, founder of Anthem of Hope. And I got a completely unrelated comment from Octawave. Here's the comment, quote, 5 years ago, you look like Bonnie's dad from Toy Story 4. Now I'm confused by that because Toy Story 4 came out this summer. I watched it in the theater. I would actually say it's probably my favorite Toy Story movie, actually. So yeah, I saw that with my family. And so after they said, so either way, forget about the 5 years ago part. That doesn't make any sense. I mean, I don't even know that I was regularly making videos so much 5 years ago. So let's forget about that. Let's just focus on right now. How about that? So let's just say, let's pretend the comment says, you look like Bonnie's dad from Toy Story 4. And that got one thumbs up. So that means one other person agreed. So I responded back and I said, the character of Bonnie's dad was created to appear vaguely Mexican, as I happen to be myself. To which Octawave responded, quote, Nick Shell, you're Mexican, question mark. Is that a new thing? I'm almost 40, so is that a new thing? People will spell out question mark instead of just putting one there. Either way, they're asking. And then I responded. I said, look up any video on my channel with my mom in it. You'll see what I mean. And 2 thumbs up from that. So in case you don't know this, and you're watching either of my channels, which you have to be watching this video, I am vaguely Mexican. And when they were creating the character of Bonnie's dad, they specifically made him to kind of make you wonder, is he supposed to be Mexican? That's the whole, if they make you think that, then they were a success in creating that character. So obviously, after you watch this video, or even right now, if you can multitask, you know, do a Google image search of Bonnie's dad, Toy Story 4, and you'll see this guy. So this has been confirmed. I did research on it. When they were creating the character of Bonnie's dad, the man who created it, he is a Mexican American, and he wanted to create a father like his own father that reminded him. So this guy doesn't look specifically, explicitly, exactly like you'd expect a Mexican American to look like, but he absolutely could fall into that category without you having to think too much about it. And it's funny because I did notice this when I watched Toy Story 4. I watched, well, I noticed Bonnie first. I thought, is she supposed to be Hispanic? And then I saw her mom. I'm like, maybe. And then when I saw the dad, I'm like, I'm pretty sure that's what they're going for. So definitely they are. Now for me, specifically, in case you don't know the story, what year is this? 2019? So I guess it was a little over 100 years ago. My great-grandparents got on a train in Michoacan, Mexico, which is where, on the show Breaking Bad, that's where they actually make all the meth on the show. That part of Mexico, it's southern Mexico. My great-grandparents got on a train, went all the way through the United States, up almost to the Canadian border to Buffalo, New York, which if you looked it up, it's very close to the Canadian border. And that's where they ended up, you know, about 100 years ago. And then, you know, one thing leads to another, and ultimately, you know, a great-grandson is born, you know, and that's me. And so the DNA test confirms it. You know, I've got, because if you're of Mexican descent, say you were, quote, you know, full Mexican, what it's going to show is you're going to be at least about half Native American, whether it's Mayan or Aztec, etc. And then the rest is going to be largely, predictably, Spanish, Portuguese. There may be a little other stuff in there like Jewish, Middle Eastern, Italian, something like that, because there was a lot of mixing going on over there in Spain and Portugal from hundreds of years ago. So ultimately that's what you can predict if you are someone of Mexican descent, and that was what my DNA test confirmed. that I am, it said actually, I think like 21% Native American, and then about a third, I think 31% Spanish, Portuguese. So, and that's the thing with DNA tests. It's not a perfect science. What happens is you could take 100 tests in a row from the same test and get a different response each time. It's going to vary a little bit because each time it's an estimate of your DNA. So when I took my test, it gave me a high dose of the Mexican side, and whereas my mom got a high dose of the Jewish and the Western Asian, which is ultimately Iran, Iraq, which we would call Middle Eastern here in the United States. My mom got a high dose of that, but my test didn't show any of that, and we took the same brand, MyHeritage. So we took the same one, but that's how it is. It's not perfect, but with me having a DNA test channel, it helps me to understand this because ultimately I'm an expert of no kind. I'm nothing but an entertainer who reads comments for my videos, and I accidentally learn a lot about the topics that people are already obsessed with, so when I make that video, they're ready for a new one. So yes, definitely Bonnie's dad is purposely designed to look like a Mexican-American dad, which he is, but I think they're always going to be vague about it. I think they're not going to give her a last name. She's not going to be, Bonnie Hernandez. They're not going to do that. And it's in the likeness of the show Friends, because Rachel on the show Friends, is she Jewish? Well, the writers who are Jewish specifically wrote her as a Jewish character without ever saying. Now, granted, Ross and Monica are specifically Jewish, but it's never really brought up much about Rachel. It's implied. Now, if you see her mother and you see her sisters on the show, they seem to be someone who's not of the Hebrew heritage. Maybe they converted to Judaism. Her mother converted, perhaps, because they don't have the, quote, Jewish look that Monica and Ross have. Now, trivia, Monica is from the same state as me, Alabama. There's nothing Jewish about her at all, but she got cast to play someone who was Jewish, even though she wasn't. But it's interesting, I've done some research on the show Friends, and ultimately Rachel Green. Green is often a Jewish last name. It's kind of like Gordon. It can be Scottish, it can be Jewish. You don't really know. You have to do some research on there. So they kept it sort of vague. There is an episode of Friends that I watched where Phoebe's playing the song at the cafe, and she's talking about different gifts, like holiday gifts to give to each person, in their group. And when she came to Rachel, I think she said something like giving Rachel a dreidel. Yeah, because it basically kind of almost rhymes, Rachel and dreidel. Why would you say that? Why would you give someone a dreidel if they weren't Jewish? So it's implied, but not. But you have to be in that mindset to already be thinking that way, and then it gets confirmed. Like this, Disney. This theory has been confirmed by the writers, but you had to be looking for this to know it. In Frozen, the movie Frozen, Anna and Elsa's parents, they got lost at sea, and that's the last we hear of them. Well, not if you watch the movie Tarzan, because Tarzan is their brother. Yes, that's right. The parents got lost at sea. They got stranded. They landed. They had a son. Ultimately, they died, but that son was Tarzan. And that is absolutely confirmed. Even at the timeline of when those movies take place, it all connects. Somebody figured it out, and the writers confirmed that is exactly. So it's funny when fan theories end up being right. I'll close with this one. This is one of my favorites. One of my favorite movies, Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. That came out 10 years before I was even born. Just by default, one of my favorite movies. I've had this soundtrack since high school. I think just so good of a movie. But obviously it's very weird and even kind of creepy, actually. But the theory is that the whole time Charlie was specifically chosen to win, because when he actually gets the winning ticket, the Candyman, when he goes in there and after the Candyman sings that song, when Charlie buys the first one, no tickets, right? But he finds the coin and then he goes back, and specifically the Candyman gives him, he says, you don't want this one, you want this one on the shelf, and he gives him that one. So the Candyman was basically a scout to find someone worthy. maybe they already knew about Charlie and specifically lined it up there to make it seem like it was a contest, which ultimately another theory too that you could easily add to this one is that it wasn't really a contest to win. It was more of a curse. It was that Willy Wonka's factory was going out of business. OSHA came out the next year in '72, and he was already using some questionable, human labor with the Oompa Loompas. There was human contact with the chocolate, as we know. And then it's almost like he just didn't care about it. It's like, oh, this kid fell in chocolate. Okay, see ya. Oh, she just fell down the hatch. Okay, see ya. So it was very shady. He didn't really seem like a legitimate businessman. I think that's an understatement. So I love these fan theories, all because someone left a comment saying I look like Bonnie's dad, which in theory, and you be the judge, vote below, look them up and see what you think. If you can see any kind of resemblance, if nothing else, you can see how they purposely made him look like a Mexican American without making it too stereotypical. If you look at the people, and also Disney, Pixar, Coco, when you look at those people, they have a much more explicit Mexican look where it's heavier on the Native American side and less about the Spanish Portuguese side. They have a certain look. Compared to Bonnie's dad, it's more on the Mexican American side where they've had more of the Anglo kind of mixed in over the last couple of decades. Either way, what you believe is reality, and that reality belongs right here in the comment section.